Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Live Healthy, Stay Young, your trusted channel for practical tips and valuable knowledge about health, especially for older adults. Have you ever thought that something as ordinary as your refrigerator could be quietly putting your health at risk without you even knowing it? Every year, nearly 49 million Americans become ill due to contaminated food. Over 4,000 lives are lost, and many of them are seniors. As we age, our immune systems naturally become less robust, making it harder to fight off infections that younger people might recover from more easily. But here's what's truly surprising. Many of these food-related illnesses don't start at restaurants or in takeout containers. They start at home, in the one place most of us trust to keep food fresh and safe. That's right. Your refrigerator could be turning certain everyday foods into hidden health threats. Recent studies have revealed that storing some common foods in the fridge may not only strip them of their nutrients, but also increase your risk of food poisoning, or even cause dangerous chemical changes in the food itself. And sadly, most people, including caring health-conscious seniors, are unaware. If you've been placing fruits, vegetables, or pantry staples in the fridge without giving it much thought, you could be unknowingly setting the stage for health problems down the line. And the number one food we're going to talk about today, it's especially concerning. It can lose its benefits and form harmful compounds just from being chilled. That's why this video is so important. If you're someone who values your health, your energy, and your independence, then I invite you to watch until the very end. The information you're about to learn can make a real difference in how you shop, store, and protect your food, and ultimately, your health. Before we begin, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Feel free to share in the comments below. And if you believe in taking small, smart steps to stay strong, vibrant, and healthy as you age, please click like and subscribe to our channel Live Healthy, Stay Young. We're here to support you every day with trusted health tips that really work. Now let's get started. Number 9, potatoes. Let's begin with one of the most familiar and comforting foods in any household. Potatoes. They're inexpensive, versatile, and found in nearly every kitchen. For many of us, tossing a bag of potatoes into the refrigerator without thinking twice seems completely harmless, even responsible. But here's something most people don't know, and it may come as a real surprise. Putting raw potatoes in the fridge can actually turn them into a danger to your health. When raw potatoes are exposed to cold temperatures for extended periods, a subtle but significant chemical process takes place. The natural starches inside the potato begin to break down and rapidly convert into sugars. Now, this transformation might sound innocent. After all, sugar is everywhere in food. But the real problem comes later, during cooking. If you roast, bake, or fry these cold-stored potatoes, especially at high temperatures, those extra sugars can interact with naturally occurring amino acids to form a compound called acrylamide. This substance has been shown in animal studies to have links to cancer, and while research on its effect in humans is still ongoing, health experts are already raising serious concerns. And that's not the only problem. Cold temperatures also affect the texture and appearance of your potatoes. Instead of staying firm and smooth, they often become soft, grainy, and discolored. If you ever notice your cooked potatoes tasting oddly sweet or turning an unusual color or mushy texture, it's not your cooking. It's likely the fridge that's to blame. What once was a hearty, comforting food full of natural energy becomes a strange, sticky mess that might be doing more harm than good when heated. And for older adults, who may already be dealing with weakened digestion or underlying health conditions, consuming those altered compounds is an even bigger risk. So what's the right way to store potatoes? Keep them in a cool, dark, and dry place, like a pantry or cupboard. Avoid humidity and exposure to light, which can also cause sprouting and nutrient loss. Stored properly, potatoes can last for weeks while keeping their texture, flavor, and nutritional value intact. If you currently have a bag sitting in the refrigerator, don't panic, but do move it to a better spot today. It's a small change that can make a meaningful difference in the quality of your meals and in the long-term health of you and your loved ones. Number 8, bread. Now let's move on to something that holds a special place in nearly every home, bread. Whether it's a warm slice of toast in the morning or a simple sandwich for lunch, bread is one of those everyday comforts we often take for granted. That's why so many people, especially older adults trying to reduce waste, store their bread in the refrigerator thinking it will keep it fresh longer. But sadly, this well-meaning habit can actually have the opposite effect. At first, it seems practical. After all, the fridge keeps things cold and slows down spoilage, right? But bread behaves differently. When you place bread in a cold environment, a process called retrogradation begins. That's a scientific way of saying the starches in the bread begin to harden and crystallize. And this happens quickly, much faster than you might expect. The result? What was once soft, fluffy, and comforting becomes dry, stiff, and crumbly. It doesn't just lose its freshness. It loses its soul. Toast becomes brittle and lifeless. Sandwiches feel dry in your mouth. It's not just a change in texture. It's a loss of enjoyment. Even more concerning, when bread is removed from the fridge and exposed to room temperature again, moisture condensation can create the perfect breeding ground for mold. And that's more than just unpleasant. It's potentially harmful. Some types of mold release mycotoxins, which can cause serious health issues, particularly for older adults whose immune systems may already be compromised. So what's the healthier, smarter way to keep your bread fresh? Freeze it. Freezing bread halts both staleness and mold without ruining the texture. Just slice it first, take out what you need, and gently warm it when you're ready to eat. For bread you'll use within a few days, keep it at room temperature in a sealed container or bread box, cool, dry, and out of direct sunlight. Avoid letting your refrigerator take the life out of your daily loaf. A small change in storage can preserve not only the taste and softness of your bread, but also your health and peace of mind. And now, a quick question just for you. Have you ever stored your bread in the fridge without realizing it might be harmful? Comment 1 below if you've ever made this mistake. We'd love to hear from you. Number 7, onions. Let's turn our attention to another kitchen essential that most of us use almost daily, onions. Whether chopped into soups, sautéed with vegetables, or used raw in salads, onions add flavor and depth to countless dishes. Because they're so common and easy to keep, many people don't think twice about how they're stored. In fact, it's surprisingly common for people to place them in the refrigerator without realizing the consequences. At first glance, putting onions in the fridge might seem harmless. But onions are unique. They come wrapped in their own natural protective skin, which helps them stay firm, dry, and full of flavor when stored correctly. Unfortunately, the refrigerator's cold, humid environment disrupts this natural balance. When exposed to moisture in the fridge, onions begin to absorb it quickly. This causes the texture to break down. The once crisp flesh turns soft and mushy, and before long, the onion can begin to rot. The flavor also changes, not in a pleasant way. It becomes sharp, sour, or even bitter. In some cases, mold may develop, especially on cut onions, even if they're wrapped or sealed. And that's not all. Onions are highly aromatic, filled with sulfur-based compounds that give them their distinct smell and taste. But when placed in the refrigerator, these compounds don't just stay inside the onion. They often leak out and affect the flavor and smell of nearby foods. If you ever pulled out a block of butter or a bowl of fruit that mysteriously smells like onions, you now know why. Cut onions, in particular, are vulnerable. Once the inner layers are exposed to air and moisture, they become an ideal breeding ground for bacteria. Although some myths claim that onions absorb toxins, the real concern lies in how quickly bacteria can grow when onions are stored improperly. This can be especially dangerous for older adults, who may be more sensitive to foodborne pathogens. So, what's the safest and best way to store onions? Whole onions should be kept in a cool, dry, well-ventilated space, like a pantry or cabinet. Never put them in a plastic bag, as they need air to stay fresh. For cut onions, it's okay to refrigerate them only if they are tightly sealed in an airtight container, and even then, they should be used within a day or two to prevent spoilage. Making this small adjustment in how you store onions can help preserve their flavor, protect your other foods, and keep your meals safer and more enjoyable. Number 6, tomatoes. Now let's talk about a food that's often misunderstood when it comes to storage. Tomatoes. Juicy, vibrant, and full of nutrients, tomatoes are a staple in countless meals, from hearty stews to fresh garden salads. But despite how familiar they are, many people unknowingly store them the wrong way, by putting them in the refrigerator. On the surface, it may seem like a logical thing to do. The fridge keeps things fresh, so why wouldn't it do the same for tomatoes? But here's the truth. Tomatoes do not like the cold. In fact, chilling them actually damages both their texture and their flavor, and can even reduce their nutritional value. Tomatoes are tropical fruits by nature. Their internal chemistry is designed for warm conditions, and when you expose them to the cold, important processes, like ripening, are abruptly halted. This matters because ripening is where much of the flavor in a tomato develops. When you place a tomato in the fridge, you stop that process in its tracks. What you're left with is a tomato that looks fine on the outside, but tastes watery, bland, and lifeless. The texture suffers just as much. Cold temperatures break down the delicate cell walls inside the tomato, turning its firm flesh into something soft and mealy. That bright, satisfying bite you expect from a fresh tomato disappears, replaced by a mushy consistency that feels off the moment you taste it. There's also the issue of appearance. Tomatoes stored in the fridge often develop wrinkled skin and dull color, making them look older than they really are. Even if they're still technically safe to eat, their appeal and their nutritional value has already taken a hit. Speaking of nutrition, tomatoes are a good source of vitamin C, an essential nutrient that supports the immune system, skin health, and more. Unfortunately, vitamin C is sensitive to cold. When tomatoes are stored in low temperatures for too long, this valuable vitamin begins to break down, meaning you get fewer health benefits from every bite. So, what's the right way to store them? The answer is simple. Keep your tomatoes at room temperature. Choose a spot away from direct sunlight, and if possible, store them stem side down to help retain moisture and slow spoilage. If your tomatoes are getting too ripe, it's best to use them quickly, perhaps in a sauce, soup, or roasted dish. And if you absolutely must refrigerate them, try to bring them back to room temperature before eating to help recover some of the flavor. Tomatoes are one of nature's most flavorful and nutritious gifts, but only when they're treated right. By storing them properly, you not only preserve their taste and texture, but also the health benefits that make them such a powerful part of any diet. Number 5. Garlic. Let's take a closer look at one of the most treasured ingredients in kitchens around the world, garlic. Known for its bold flavor and powerful health benefits, garlic has been used for centuries not only as food, but also as medicine. From supporting heart health to boosting the immune system, it's no wonder so many older adults include garlic in their daily meals. But as valuable as garlic is, many people unintentionally reduce its benefits, or even turn it into a risk, simply by storing it the wrong way. One of the most common mistakes? Refrigerating it. Whole bulbs of garlic are built to last. When kept in the right conditions, cool, dry, and well ventilated, garlic can stay fresh for weeks, sometimes even months. That's part of its beauty. But once it's placed in the refrigerator, everything begins to change. In cold, humid air, garlic starts to sprout prematurely. You may have seen this, little green shoots emerging from the cloves. While they may look harmless, sprouting is a sign that the garlic's natural structure is breaking down. The flavor becomes sharper, more bitter, and less enjoyable in cooking. More importantly, the compounds that make garlic so beneficial, particularly allicin, known for its antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effects, begin to fade. But the risks go beyond flavor and nutrients. When garlic is chopped or minced and stored in oil and then placed in the refrigerator, it can become a breeding ground for Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria responsible for botulism, a rare but potentially deadly illness. The FDA has issued warnings about this exact situation, especially for home-prepared garlic and oil mixtures that are not properly preserved. This is particularly concerning for seniors. A weakened immune system means that the body may not respond quickly to early symptoms of bacterial contamination, making what seems like a small storage decision into something far more serious. So what should you do instead? Keep whole bulbs of garlic in a basket, mesh bag, or open container, stored in a dark and well-ventilated area, like a kitchen drawer or pantry shelf. Avoid plastic bags and sealed containers, which trap moisture and speed up spoilage. If you've already peeled or chopped your garlic, It's okay to store in the fridge only if it's tightly sealed, used within a short time, and preferably kept in a base of vinegar or lemon juice to reduce the risk of bacterial growth. Garlic is a gift, rich in both flavor and health-promoting compounds. But like any gift, it must be handled with care. With proper storage, you can enjoy everything it has to offer while keeping your meals safe and nourishing. Number 4, coffee. Now let's talk about something many of us cherish every single morning, a warm cup of coffee. For some, it's a comforting routine. For others, it's a small moment of peace, a way to gently start the day. And beyond its rich aroma and bold flavor, coffee has even been linked to various health benefits, including support for brain function and heart health. But as common as coffee is in our daily lives, many people are unknowingly storing it in a way that slowly destroys its quality, flavor, and even some of its potential benefits. One of the most frequent mistakes? Keeping it in the refrigerator. At first, putting coffee in the fridge might seem like a sensible idea. Cold keeps things fresh, right? But coffee is unique. Whether it's in whole bean form or already ground, coffee is extremely sensitive to its environment. It naturally absorbs moisture, odors, and even flavors from the air around it. This is due to its hygroscopic nature, meaning it acts like a sponge. When you store coffee in the fridge, every time you open and close the door, the change in temperature causes condensation. That tiny bit of moisture clinging to the beans or grounds may seem harmless, but over time it causes clumping, loss of flavor, and early spoilage. The delicate oils and compounds that give coffee its complex taste and health-boosting antioxidants start to break down. But it's not just taste that suffers. The breakdown of certain antioxidants, like chlorogenic acids, which help support heart health and reduce inflammation, means your coffee may lose more than just its aroma. You could be missing out on some of the very benefits that make coffee so special, especially for older adults seeking to maintain energy and cognitive clarity. And then there's the issue of odor transfer. Since coffee easily absorbs smells, placing it near leftover food or strong-smelling items in the fridge can drastically change the flavor of your brew. That cup you look forward to in the morning might end up tasting flat, sour, or strangely unfamiliar. To preserve coffee at its best, it should be stored in an opaque, airtight container, placed in a cool, dark cupboard, away from light, heat, and humidity. Avoid transparent jars on sunny counters or loosely sealed bags. If you buy in bulk, consider dividing the coffee into smaller portions and keeping the excess sealed tightly until needed. A small change where you store your coffee can make a big difference, not just in flavor, but in preserving the little joys that make your daily routine more enjoyable and more nourishing. Number 3, honey. Now let's move on to something sweet, golden, and timeless. Honey. For generations, honey has been treasured not only as a natural sweetener, but also as a remedy for coughs, sore throats, digestion, and even wound healing. Its smooth texture and rich flavor have made it a staple in kitchens and medicine cabinets alike. One of the most remarkable things about honey is its natural ability to preserve itself. Thanks to its low moisture content and high acidity, honey is resistant to bacteria and can last indefinitely when stored correctly. In fact, archaeologists have even discovered pots of honey in ancient tombs that were still safe to eat. But despite its durability, many people unknowingly damage their honey by placing it in the refrigerator. At first glance, this may seem like a reasonable way to prevent spoilage. After all, the fridge preserves so many things. But honey is different. When stored in cold temperatures, honey begins to crystallize quickly. This means it becomes thick, grainy, and hard to spread. Although crystallized honey is still safe to eat, the texture can be off-putting and inconvenient, especially for older adults who may have trouble stirring or scooping it. The real problem, however, comes when repeated opening and closing of the container introduces small amounts of moisture. This moisture can upset honey's delicate balance and, over time, may lead to fermentation, causing an unpleasant sour taste and smell. In some cases, it can also reduce the effectiveness of the natural antibacterial compounds that give honey its healing reputation. Worse still, refrigeration can make honey more vulnerable to microbial growth if enough moisture is introduced. That means you're not just compromising taste. You may also be compromising the very qualities that make honey such a healthy addition to your diet. The best way to store honey is simple. Keep it in a tightly sealed glass jar or container. Place in a cool, dry, and dark place, like a kitchen cabinet or pantry shelf. Avoid metal lids that can rust, and make sure your spoon or knife is always clean and dry before dipping. Properly stored, honey can stay fresh for years, retaining its smooth texture, natural sweetness, and valuable health properties. Be honest. Have you ever kept your honey in the fridge without realizing it could spoil the texture or reduce its benefits? Comment 2 below if you've done this before. You're not alone, and now you know better. Number 2, bananas. Now let's talk about one of the most loved and widely eaten fruits in the world. Bananas. Soft, naturally sweet, easy to digest, and packed with potassium. Bananas are especially popular among seniors who need gentle, nourishing foods to support heart and muscle health. But while bananas may seem like one of the simplest fruits to store, there's one common mistake many people make without even realizing it: putting them in a refrigerator. Bananas are tropical fruits, which means they thrive in warmth. Their ripening process is guided by enzymes that are sensitive to cold. So, when you place an unripe or even semi-ripe banana in the fridge, the cold air disrupts this natural ripening process. As a result, the banana may stop ripening altogether, leaving you with a hard, tasteless fruit that never reaches its full sweetness. What's more, the skin quickly turns dark, grayish, then brown or even black. Many people think this means a banana is spoiled, but it's actually a reaction to the cold. Still, this discoloration makes the fruit less appealing, and in some cases, the texture inside becomes mushy or uneven. The flavor can also take on a strange metallic note, far from the creamy sweetness we expect from a ripe banana. But beyond appearance and taste, refrigeration can also impact the banana's nutritional value. Some of the natural antioxidants in bananas, like dopamine and catechins, which help reduce inflammation and oxidative stress, are sensitive to cold. Storing bananas in the fridge may reduce the effectiveness of these compounds over time, which is especially unfortunate for older adults who can benefit greatly from them. Another concern arises when overripe bananas are refrigerated. The moisture inside the peel, combined with the cold, can create a favorable environment for mold, especially around the stem or bruise spots. This not only affects the banana's quality, but also introduces unnecessary health risks. So what's the best way to store bananas? Keep them at room temperature, ideally in a well-ventilated fruit bowl or hanging on a banana hook to allow air circulation. If your bananas become too ripe and you can't eat them in time, don't throw them out. Freeze them instead. Just peel them first. Place them in a sealed container and save them for smoothies or baking. By simply keeping bananas where they belong, outside the fridge, you protect their taste, their texture, and the nutrients that make them so valuable. Number 1, olive oil. Finally, we've arrived at the number 1 item on this list, and perhaps the most surprising of all, olive oil. Known for its heart-healthy properties, rich flavor, and versatility in cooking, olive oil is a cornerstone of the Mediterranean diet and a trusted ally for many people, especially older adults seeking to care for their cardiovascular health naturally. But despite its many benefits, olive oil is incredibly sensitive to temperature, light, and air. And storing it in the refrigerator, as some people do to try to preserve it longer, can actually have the opposite effect. When olive oil is chilled, it begins to solidify. You may have seen it turn cloudy or form waxy clumps. While this physical change isn't dangerous in itself, it's a sign that the oil's natural structure is being disrupted. Repeatedly moving the bottle in and out of the fridge, cause it to warm up and cool down again, creates ongoing stress on the oil's molecular composition. Over time, this leads to oxidation, a process that breaks down the beneficial compounds in olive oil and introduces harmful byproducts. Oxidized oil loses much of its antioxidant power, including valuable compounds like polyphenol, which play a key role in reducing inflammation, protecting blood vessels, and supporting brain health. For seniors especially, maintaining the integrity of these nutrients can make a meaningful difference in long-term wellness. Even beyond health concerns, refrigeration also affects olive oil's flavor. Those fruity, peppery notes that make a high-quality extra virgin olive oil so delightful can dull or disappear entirely when the oil is exposed to cold. What's left is a flat, bland taste that no longer elevates your dishes or supports your health in the way it once did. There's also a practical concern. Once olive oil becomes semi-solid in the fridge, it's harder to pour. That can lead to spills or overuse, adding unnecessary calories to meals or creating mess in the kitchen. For older hands, this inconvenience can turn a simple task into a frustrating one. The good news is that olive oil doesn't need to be refrigerated to stay fresh. In fact, the best place to store it is in a cool, dark cupboard away from the stove, sunlight, or heat-producing appliances. Use a dark glass bottle or a stainless steel container to protect it from light, and make sure the lid is closed tightly after each use to minimize exposure to air. Stored properly, good olive oil can retain its flavor and nutritional value for up to 2 years, giving you both delicious meals and lasting support for your health. What you can do starting today. Now that you've learned how everyday foods can become harmful when stored the wrong way, let's take some simple, practical steps. Starting right in your own kitchen. Begin by giving your kitchen a gentle reorganization. Look at where each type of food is stored and ask yourself, is this where it truly belongs? Keep tropical fruits like bananas and avocados out of the fridge until they're fully ripe. Let them breathe at room temperature where they can ripen naturally, full of flavor and nutrients. Move your potatoes and onions to a cool, dark, and dry spot, such as a pantry or a kitchen drawer, not the refrigerator, where moisture can spoil them and reduce their nutritional value. For bread, resist the urge to refrigerate it. Instead, keep it in a sealed container at room temperature for daily use, and freeze the rest if needed. This helps preserve both freshness and safety. Honey belongs in your pantry, stored in a tightly sealed jar, far away from cold and moisture. That way it stays smooth, sweet, and full of its natural healing properties. Your coffee deserves a dry, dark home, like an airtight container tucked away in a cupboard. This protects its flavor and health benefits, and keeps your mornings tasting just right. And don't forget your garlic and tomatoes. These powerful, natural ingredients should be treated with care. Store them properly, not in the fridge, to keep their nutrient intact and their taste rich and satisfying. Every small change you make is a loving act of care for your body, your energy, and your well-being. It may not seem like much at first, but these little habits add up to a healthier, more vibrant life, especially as we age. A message from the heart. If you've made it to this point in the video, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Your time, your attention, and your desire to learn mean the world to us. At Live Healthy, stay young. We believe that health isn't about perfection. It's about paying attention, making mindful choices, and staying curious about the things that nourish us. If today's video helped you or reminded you of something important, we would truly appreciate your support. Please click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below to share your thoughts or simply say hello. Your story, your voice, and your presence in this community matter. And together, one small change at a time, we can keep building healthier, stronger, more joyful lives, no matter our age. Take care, and see you in the next video.